listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, the place to learn about new technology and technological advances before they become mainstream. This special edition 1 episode is sponsored by Cisco, taking your business a level up. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. I'm your guest host today, Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. We're recording on site here in Denver, Colorado at the Ingram Micro ONE event. I'm joined today by Erick Simpson. I got a chance to catch his breakout session, one of them, yesterday. He is an IT business transformation and channel growth expert. He's also an author, a consultant, and the creator of the MSP Mastered methodology for business improvement. Erick, how's it going today, sir?
It's going pretty fantastic, Logan. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned, I got a chance to check out one of your presentations yesterday in a breakout session, and you were talking a lot about pricing and proposal development as well as presentation. So tell us a little bit about some of the keys that you think folks are missing when it comes to choosing and presenting the right pricing.
Sure. Well, I'll first start off by saying that I think marketing and sales are the IT solution providers' Achilles heel. So any opportunity that I have to work with them on helping them hone those aspects of their offering is great. I mean, they're awesome at architecting these great solutions to help their clients realize their business vision through the smart investment in technology, security, and all the above. But, why I love doing the session I did yesterday so much, which was really, tips to really creating a killer proposal, is to give them kind of that step-by-step prescriptive advice. And that's what these providers, I think really respond to, is just tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to do it, right? So really the session was all about some key components in crafting the proposal, how to identify pricing so that you don't have sticker shock when you present it to your prospect or client, and really just how to present it properly during the sales engagement itself.
Yeah. So let's call out some of those specific tips for increasing your closing percentage. One of those that I really liked, and you alluded to it there, how you talk about pricing and how you talk about budget earlier on can actually affect the end of the sales cycle a little bit, right?
Right. I love that you picked up on that, Logan. That was my very first tip, is to always, always, always ask the budget question during qualifying. When you're sitting there with a prospect and it may be the first time you've ever met them, you've done your warm up, you've got them to relax a little bit, you've qualified them for their pain, and now you have an understanding of what their pains are, and you're starting to formulate in your mind what you think you might be able to architect to solve those pains and needs. What I tend to find, which is, I think it's just an offshoot of technicians becoming sales professionals, there's this awkward feeling or awkwardness or hesitation to ask the budget question. And so I gave maybe, 5 or 6 really simple ways to ask the budget question with a prospect. And, they're really simple. If you make a big deal about anything during the sales process, guess what? The prospect's probably going to make a big deal too. So it's really important to just make it a conversation. So a simple way to ask budget question is, so how will our initiative be funded? Right? Just a simple question. How will this engagement be funded? Whose budget will support, addressing this pain for you? Have you thought about a budget range to solve this important problem? And, the other tip I gave was, a lot of times prospects have no idea. Like, this might be the first time they're thinking about addressing this issue. And so then you've got to kind of dip into your art/science, bag of tricks and ask a leading question or make a statement such as, for clients in your particular situation, about your size with these challenges, we've seen the need to find a budget within the range of X and Y. So you kind of give yourself a little bit of a wiggle room there. And then I always impress upon the folks that I work with to never ask, how much budget do you have? It's not like they have budget laying around, right? Hey, Logan, I'm glad you showed up. I got all this budget laying here. Can you help me
right?
spend some of it? So I always say, look, use the term find. Is that, can we find some budget within that range? And then if the client says, yeah, we can probably find some budget within that range. Now I'm getting them to think about how do they find it, not that, they have it laying around. So that'll give you a clue as to where you can, start architecting a solution. But in many cases, maybe the client will say, oh no, I had no idea it was going to be that much. I really, can't find that kind of budget. Then you can qualify some more and simply ask, well, what kind of budget could we find? And if it's much less than what's required, then maybe that adjusts our strategy to then create a proposal that phases the solution in over time. So maybe this quarter we'll take, the highest priority things and maybe address those. And if the client will agree to budget over phases, then maybe we can dip back into some new budget in the next quarter and so on until we get the solution completely implemented.
I love what you're saying there, because I think a lot of people, whether they're technicians turned salespeople or just salespeople, that question can be awkward. It can be intimidating to ask about budget. So I love the tip that you shared there and again today about finding budget. That just paints a different picture in the prospective customer's mind. And also how to talk about that. Well, when the customer asks very early on, what are we looking at here? And you don't want to hem and haw too much, right? You want to act like you've been there before. And giving that, okay, from what I know today, and a client's about your size looking to do something in this range, the range could be here to here. You don't paint yourself in a corner, but you also don't look like, well, you got to go through all 6 steps in my sales process before I ever give you a price, right?
Right. So that's that sales prevention stuff that we talked about during the session yesterday. Yeah. You don't want to create a bunch of obstacles and create unnecessary objections at any point really during the sales process, but certainly not when you're in the very first meeting trying to qualify for need and budget and things like that.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the 3 option scenario and those stats that you laid out in your presentation yesterday when you're bundling, giving an option 1, 2, and 3, and how that can make it easier for buyers to buy.
Sure. So what I expressed yesterday was simply based upon human behavioral wiring and kind of the buyer's mentality. So, as human beings, Logan, when we're asked to make a buying decision, right, we're going to do our research and let's just say, I want to buy a new flat screen TV for Christmas for the family and whatnot. We do our, research and we find exactly the model that we want. We say, yep, this is it. This is the budget. Great. I go down. And I'm in the retail store and I see the flat screen. The salesperson comes over to help me and says, hey, is this what you're looking for? You're looking for something in this size? Awesome. This is a great model. And this is what it costs. But you know what? Have you seen the model with these additional benefits or these additional features? And, we're shopping for TV. So no, I haven't. Show me that. Right. And so the salesperson shows me another TV with additional benefits. Maybe it has better sound system. Maybe it's a smart TV. Maybe it, does all these additional things. And so by offering me an additional option now, it has changed my buyer's mentality from should I or shouldn't I, right? So if I'm faced with that.
It's no longer a binary decision.
It's not a binary black and white decision. Now it's, how should I buy? So it's the same thing when we're asking clients to engage with us in our proposal. I always recommend that we use 3 options. That's that power of 3s that we always hear about that has some really unique significance to us as humans. And so when I say this is my solution, this is what it costs, now I have to overcome the objections, which may ultimately lead to a pricing objection, which now maybe a junior sales professional might begin negotiating on price to try to sell that solution, which is counter to what we want to build our perception in the buyer's mind to be. We are a trusted advisor. Everything that we do has value, and we try to express that value during the sales process. So instead of offering just one option and asking the buyer to say yes or no to it, I suggest we offer 3 options. Now, the first option has to include everything that the buyer stated that they need within the budget that they've agreed to. This isn't a bait and switch tactic.
Right. Not the folks on House Hunters. Well, we said we wanted a 3-bedroom house and you're showing us a 1-bedroom condo, right? Yeah,
this is not going to work because that's obviously, sales trickery, I guess, and it's going to erode the confidence in the buyer. So,
absolutely.
So the first option has to have everything they need within that budget range, just like in the flat panel TV scenario I gave you. Hey, this is what I looked at. This is what I need. The next option must have more qualitative value. So everything that was in the first option, plus additional different unique benefits, not more of the same. So not 20 licenses of Office 365 in option 1 and forte license is an option too. That's not what I'm talking about. It has to be qualitatively better, not quantitatively better. And then the third option has even more value, right? The highest, some folks just want the best. Mm-hmm. So now when we present our sales presentation to the buyer, we can say, we've crafted the solution to fit right within your budget. But you know what? While I was doing that, I was thinking about a couple of other options you might be interested in. Would it be okay if I shared those with you? So it's a very smooth transition. They say, sure, let me see what you've got. Right?
Yep,
we're sitting
ask
there.
For that permission.
And so studies have shown that when offered 3 options, a buyer, 85% of the time, buyers will choose one of the 2 higher priced options.
Wow.
So, and that's all based upon how we construct those. So it's all tied together, right? We want the buyers really in our middle option. So we put the most value and potentially the highest margin for us in that middle option. So with 3 options, a buyer will choose the first option 15% of the time if we construct it properly, the middle option 60% of the time, and then the third option 25% of the time. Mm-hmm. And it works just as advertised. I've been doing this for many, many years. And once I found that and discovered this way of offering options to clients, I've been really promoting that to the clients that I work with as well.
Yep, absolutely. If you look at it kind of the good, better, best, just make sure that first option is good, right, as they've expressed to you, right? Mm-hmm. I think that point was really important. Also, real quick, before we jump straight back into the episode today, we want to tell you about Ingram Micro Financial Solutions and how you can maximize your buying power and get to yes with your customers faster. For the last 9 years, Ingram Micro has been Channel Pro's reader's choice for best financing options. Put the power of our credit and leasing options to work for you. You can easily contact Financial Solutions at ingrammicro.com. All right, let's get back to the show. Another kind of rule of 3 you talked about yesterday is 3 types of technology buyers. And I would love for you to unpack those a little bit and speak to how you might need to tweak your approach depending on what type of buyer you identified as you're going through the sales process or the qualification very early.
Yes. So think of it as your kind of ABC type of clients, right? So I identify our best clients as a technology strategic buyer. So that means that they see their investment or spend on technology as giving them a unique advantage in their market. So these are the folks that are strategic about investing in all areas of their business, not in technology. So this kind of follows that strategic business leader mentality. So they are the ones that are the most apt to either create a budget when you ask them to create a budget for technology or already have one in place, and are really going to work best with you as you map out their technology roadmap over time to help them achieve their business goals through the judicious application and investment in the right technologies. The second type of buyer, so those are your A clients. The second type of buyer will be your technology dependent clients. Now, these folks may not be quite as strategic as the first group in the way they see technology, but their businesses depend so heavily on that, that they are forced to invest in it. And if we're doing our job right as their trusted advisor, right, we are helping transform those technology dependent leaders into more technology strategic leaders by asking them to budget for investments in technology through quarterly business reviews and strategic planning sessions and things like that. And then, so they're your B clients, right? And the last group really become your averse client, your averse customers. So these are technology averse customers. These are the folks that, hey, we've all had them in our client base and many of us still do. And these are the folks that simply do not see the value of technology as they should as a driver of business and a driver of innovation in their business and helping them to improve productivity and efficiency and security and all these necessary things that we have to address nowadays. But they see it more as a necessary evil. So
they're not a great way to put it.
They're not going to invest in it. They're going to wait until the systems fail and then pay you more money now, because prevention is always more cost effective than firefighting remediation at the end of it. And you're really not going to grow that lifetime client value with these technology averse customers as you would with your dependent and strategic clients. So, the guidance there is simply go seek out technology strategic clients when you're prospecting accept those, of course, but also accept technology dependent clients and just shy away from the technology averse customers.
Yeah, I can remember, almost a dozen years of B2B tech sales, and I would walk into an office and see all this old technology, tube monitors, yellowing computers and keyboards, and oh, these guys are ripe. They need all this great technology. And I realized, hold on a second, there's a reason they're hanging on to all this old technology, and they were, as you described it, technology averse clients, and getting them to move. I ended up spinning my wheels a lot of times. So limit your time there, take it for what it's worth. And as you're prioritizing your territory or your list of accounts, look for those technology strategic.
That's a great point to make, because a lot of times, new sales professionals will try to spend as much time with these technology averse customers as they, and that's really robbing their strategic and dependent clients that are willing to invest and grow their business. It's robbing them of the time they should be spending with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched on 9 key components of killer proposals. If there are sales professionals out there in the channel thinking, man, if I could just get one of mine to be killer, I would be in a much better place. If they were going to take action on one of those right now, what do you think is maybe the most important, or maybe the easiest lever to get the most juice for the squeeze if they're trying to improve their proposals just a little bit, if they, are listening to this today?
Well, yes, I covered 9 specific kind of items within a proposal that we should always include in the proposal. But for today's podcast, I'm going to give you one that I didn't mention yesterday, that if I had to pick one over all of those, it wasn't in the top 9. I should have mentioned it yesterday, but always put a time limit on your proposal. This proposal expires on, Friday, November 28th at midnight. I've had this experience myself, and I've got clients that have had this experience where a client has kind of passed on a proposal and then 6 months later decide, oh, you know what? Let's go ahead and do that, project. And now when costs have gone up, hardware's gone up, everything has changed, it really hurts the provider in having to then say, okay, yes, I'll do it for that price because things have changed. So always put an expiration date on the proposals, and make sure and let the client know that we need a decision by that. And I don't mean, make it 3 days from now. Be realistic, give them a couple of weeks or whatever. But, then when they come back later, say, okay, I'm going to have to, reprice it. And that gives you an opportunity to maintain your margins.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can help drive a sense of urgency in the sales process. I've had customers reach out and say, oh, it says I've only got 2 days left on this proposal. Is it valid? Okay, well, what's been going on? What's going on? Maybe they went silent for a couple of weeks, which leads me to a question that you mentioned salespeople should always ask before any sales presentation. Can you talk about that key question and what that does in that point in the sales process?
Yes. The most elusive and most important, elusive question because nobody remembers to ask it, but the most important question to ask before when you're going to do your sales presentation. Now you're in the sales presentation phase of the sales process, and you're sitting out with the client, you warmed them up a little bit, and you're getting ready to transition into doing your sales presentation. This is the question you should always, always, always ask. And it's a simple one. Has anything changed since we last spoke? That's it. And this will save you grief, I promise you. And it's, I've had it happen to me where clients have said, oh, yes, we've had, this emergency, just last week. And the follow-on question then becomes, oh, and did dealing with that emergency impact the budget that we have for our initiative? And in many cases, it does. And so the guidance there, if it has impacted the budget, do not proceed with your sales presentation as you had prepared it. Now you have to go back and requalify. Maybe there's less budget. Typically, there's less budget. And now you have to requalify and then come back with another strategy. Maybe you've got to phase it in like we talked about earlier. Or the opposite might happen, Logan, where the client says, yes, we have had something significant change in our strategic planning. And I've asked, oh, and what is that? And they've said, well, we've decided to open up another office. Now,
I love that change.
That's the best one. And that's happened to me 3 times, something that has allowed me to, again, not proceed with my existing sales presentation because now I have an opportunity to qualify for a much larger opportunity. So that's the guidance there.
Yep. So ask that question. And if you get a yes, do not proceed. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200, right? And stop and requalify, because you've told some stories where sales professionals were keen and on the spot and they asked the question, but they didn't stop and they went ahead with presentation as planned, right?
Yep. That was a recent client of mine. I was training one of their new sales professionals. That's exactly what happened. I was coaching them through it. They called me the day of. They got done with the sales meeting and I said, so how did it go? Oh, I think it went great. Did you ask the question, the most important question? Yes, I did. I said, awesome. What was the answer? Well, the answer was yes, something had happened. And I said, oh, and did it affect the budget? They said, yes, it did. And I said, then what did you do? Right? Waiting for the correct response. Unfortunately, they said, well, I went ahead and did my sales presentation. I said, oh,
yes,
we've got to retrain on that.
All right. They were close.
They were close. Almost there.
We'll give them credit for the effort.
Yeah.
I love it. So Erick, let's talk a little bit. We are here at the Ingram Micro ONE event and the last of the 3 days here. Could you speak a little bit to the benefit you've seen from your partnership with Ingram Micro?
Absolutely. And I've had a long, long relationship with Ingram Micro spanning many, many years. I had co-founded one of the first pure play MSPs in the industry. Ingram Micro was our distributor then, and that's been acquired many, many years ago. Now I work with Ingram Micro to deliver really great content at their events, kind of, advise them on what the channel partners are really looking for. And they bring me in to speak and do webinars for them. And I think their strategic vision for, helping their partners grow and then creating an ecosystem for vendors to come in and partner with Ingram Micro and deliver their products and services and giving their partners choice and support through marketing and sales enablement and things like that. We really can't do it by ourselves as IT providers, right? And so we need resources like Ingram Micro provides us in order to succeed and compete with other organizations that may be larger than us and, have more staff and things like that. So it really gives everybody a level playing field to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the event here, as you mentioned, great content, as well as, taking that content like we're doing here and making it readily available outside of the event if folks weren't able to come and they can tune in. So I can just echo that in what I'm seeing as well. So we love to ask this final question to all guests on B2B Tech Talk, and that is, where do you see technology going over the next year, Erick? And if you want to put, not that you probably much ever take off that sales hat, but sales within technology, if you want to speak to it that way, or just technology in general, I love asking this question.
I think that the single biggest opportunity that I see in the next 12 months, and I'm talking the primary opportunity, not, there's a lot of opportunity. We can talk about emerging technologies, things like that, but I think it's cybersecurity. And for the last 12 or 18 months, that's really what my partners have been asking me to focus on, is helping them create a cybersecurity unit within their organizations, or how to sell cybersecurity without really being that cybersecurity expert. There's a huge opportunity. There's a tremendous amount of risk out there. I mean, this is something that we've never seen before in history. And some of the challenges, so I will put on the sales hat for a second here, some of the challenges that my partners come to me with is kind of, how do I overcome these types of objections? So they've had a client for many years, and they come and say, okay, we've got to get you signed on to our new cybersecurity program because the threats are real and there's risk on both sides of the table for the client as well as the MSP. And then the client says something like, well, Erick, I thought you were supposed to be handling all that all this time.
all that,
right? All this time. And the guidance here is just to simply say, well, you know what? That was true, 3 or 4 years ago, but the cyber criminals and the tactics and the technologies that they're using today, there's no way that what got us here from a risk management perspective can take us where we need to go. And there is tremendous amount of risk. And one of the biggest attack vectors are the end users themselves. As you know, once we protect the perimeter and we secure everything, we harden everything, it's the users that need that end user security awareness training so that they're not clicking on those phishing attempts that actually become the injection point for, ransomware and all these things. And some of the biggest cybersecurity breaches we've seen have been because of humans themselves.
Right.
So that's one argument that these partners are seeing is, well, how do I overcome that objection? So just let them know that the risk is real, and, the risk to the MSP as well. So I always say, look, in every one of your bundles of cybersecurity services, make sure there's some cyber liability insurance in there as well, because, it's not going to get any better anytime soon. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse. So I think cybersecurity is really where there's a huge opportunity to help these business owners and to bring our maturity level as service providers around the critical services that yield really important business outcomes to these clients, can come from. And as I mentioned during my talk yesterday, we need to position our services from the business outcome perspective, not the technology outcome. And I think that's another key kind of takeaway as we position ourselves for growth in 2020, is make sure that we're aligning our strategies to meet the business objectives of our clients.
Absolutely. I mean, I think of the analogy as you talk about training and employee awareness. You can have a great security system, huge deadbolt on the door, but if someone locks up and fails to, lock the back door, none of that is worth a hill of beans, right?
That's for sure.
And that's an opportunity to add that value, to talk about that risk and talk about, those training services that you can offer. So
can I add one additional thought here? So the other objection that my partners are sharing with me that they're getting from existing clients as well as new prospects is this one. Well, who wants my data? I'm just a small business owner. Who wants my data? And I say, well, the correct response to that is, you know what? You want your data, don't you? Right? The cyber criminals may not want your data, but what they do want is your Bitcoin ransom. So they're taking this shotgun approach and trying to encrypt as much data as possible to force you to pay an incredibly, dumb ransom, just in the hopes that you'll be able to unencrypt your data after you pay it. So it's not about who wants your data. They may not want your data. You may not be Sony Pictures, right? But they do want your Bitcoin ransom.
Right. Yeah. They want your money, and if your data is the way to it, then that's what it's going to be. So Erick, I really enjoyed this conversation. I love talking technology and sales, and we got to do both of those today. So if folks listening to this would like to reach out to you or go deeper on this topic of generating better proposals, how can they reach out? What resources would you point them to?
I'd put them to my website, Logan. It's ericksimpson.com, ERICK Simpson.com.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today, Erick. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. That wraps up another episode of B2B Tech Talk. If you'd like to join the discussion on Twitter, you can follow us at Ingram Tech Soul, and you can also use the hashtag on Twitter, B2B Tech Talk. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. If you haven't already subscribed to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, make sure you do so in Apple Podcasts or wherever you do your listening.
You've been listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. This special edition 1 episode is sponsored by Cisco. B2B Tech Talk is a joint production by Sweetfish Media and Ingram Micro. Ingram Micro production handled by Laura Burton and Christine Fan. To not miss an episode, subscribe today in your favorite podcast player.